Doc, just before I go to the bet of the week, I've been looking at pictures of various representatives going in and coming out of an ERC meeting on the future of the Heineken Cup and the Amlin Cup competitions. What do you make of all this? It's a serious talking point. I know we've seen a lot about the English clubs and that they weren't too happy, and the French clubs, they weren't too happy with the structures of it, the fact that the Rabo teams seem to have it easy. Does this Heineken Cup have a future?
Yes, is the simple answer. It does have a future, but what exactly that future is really going to depend on the negotiations now taking place over the next couple of weeks. And there's a lot of different pieces of evidence that are often conflicting. Like the argument is often advanced the Irish teams have it easy in the Heineken Cup because they don't take the Rabo seriously. But that doesn't explain how the Ospreys are rubbish in the Heineken Cup, but we're able to win the Rabo League. So is it a case that they don't care about the Heineken but do care about the Rabo? You have the English teams complaining that it's week in, week out, they have to compete so hard, and yet then we're told that they weren't ready for the Northampton game last week because the Irish players have been training together for longer. So you can't have it every which way. The evidence from this season, the Irish teams once again are there and thereabouts in every pool pretty much. The Welsh and Scottish have had a disaster. The Italians, on the surface of it are no better than previous seasons, even though performance-wise they do look to me to be a bit better. But, the French teams, the teams you'd expect to be good, the Toulouse and the Clermont and Toulon were the teams you would have expected to do well given the pools, and they have, and the other teams pretty much haven't. And if you look at the English teams again, pretty much the same thing, except that Tigers are struggling a little bit maybe compared to where you would have seen them, and Saints are well below where you would have foreseen them. But it's not inconceivable you could just have one English team qualifying for the quarterfinals again this year. To go with the kind of poor record they've had in the past couple of years, you could have as many as 3 or 4. So it'll be interesting to see really what side wins out in the negotiations. And the money is really at the root of all of this, as we've said before. And one of the issues, I suppose, is that the English were very much banging the drum of you should go with this new model we have, and it's better for everybody because there's lots of money there. But there's been no more detail since they've kind of first made some vague announcements, and at this stage it's looking a bit like they were maybe overplaying their hand. So unless they can come out with some strong evidence that this money is real and that it will be there for everybody, I suspect that we'll just see more of the same.
More of the same. Ian, I want to put a point to you that Doc touched on there. The arguments that some of the associations will make that everything is fine, rosy, dandy in the garden, no problems at all, that position, I guess, won't be helped by the state of the Welsh clubs and the Scottish clubs and their performances in the Heineken Cup so far. If the clubs in those countries were doing well, we'd probably have a stronger argument to keep things going the way they are. But the fact that they're not doing so well, that just might affect things.
Absolutely, and I think we also, outside of the fact that those clubs aren't playing so well in the Heineken Cup, look, the English and French sides are going to look at their own sides, and they're not going to pick out their own sides that aren't playing well in the Heineken and say, well, they're not doing well. They're actually going to highlight what the Welsh and Scottish sides are doing, and they're also going to look at, for example, what's happening in Wales, whereby their regions are in a big bit of bother. When you see what you would class as the marquee names having to move and moving abroad because the money just isn't there at the moment. The Welsh Rugby Union don't seem to be putting the money into the regions. They just haven't seemed to sort out the structure there in the regional rugby in Wales, and it's causing an awful lot of problems. Scottish rugby, as we know, is at the moment it's a shambles. You can't see where it's going to go forward, and the English and French are going to use this as a stick. We have the Leinster, Ulster and Munster doing quite well at the moment. But, at the end of the day, this is going to be about money. The English have announced that they have this agreement made with BT for their TV rights. But again, BT don't have a TV station yet, so that could be pie in the sky. But I think you'd be naive to think that the French and the English clubs together don't have the pulling power to make what they want to happen. I think they're also not naive enough to think that they can just keep battering down the door and expect the Celtic nations to back away. I think they need the likes of Leinster, Ulster and Munster in particular to be strong and to be continuing in this tournament. I think the Heineken Cup will have a future. In what guise is another thing. But I think both sides will end up making some concessions. You know, whether it's a smaller tournament, I don't know. That seems to be what the French want. But you know, this thing has a long way to run yet. But certainly they are going to use everything they possibly can as a battering ram against the Celtic nations. And frankly, Welsh and Scottish rugby aren't helping at the moment.
I think just to underline Ian's point, I mean, when you see the scheduling, the TV scheduling that Sky Sports organise, when there's an Irish province clashing and an English club clashing, it's always the Irish province that, you know, gets the TV time, and then you have the English side consigned to the red button. I think this weekend you had Leinster Claremont on TV, and I think Leicester Treviso on the red button. So from that, it's clear that the Irish sides are incredibly important for the viability of the Heineken Cup in terms of the TV money and the TV revenue. So I think Irish sides might have a bit more pulling power in that regard, but you just hope that something will be sorted out, because the Heineken Cup is a wonderful competition. You know, Test rugby isn't always great. The domestic leagues aren't really very consistent in terms of quality either, but the Heineken Cup is just consistently brilliant to watch every weekend that it's on. So I think you'd hope that, you know, sense will prevail and the Heineken Cup will continue as it is for the most part, because it's brilliant viewing. I think all of us can agree on that, you know.
Indeed, it's the Champions League of rugby,